in which the last dangling threads of our story play out in the aftermath of Anna's death. Chapter 15. "And do you know, Kostya, whom Sergei Ivanovitch traveled with on the way here?" Dolly asked, after distributing the cucumbers and honey among the children. "Vronsky. He's going to Serbia." "And not alone. He's taking a squadron at his own expense," said Katavasov. "That suits him well," said Levin. "And are the volunteers still going?" he added, glancing at Sergei Ivanovitch. Sergei Ivanovitch, without replying, was carefully probing with a blunt knife in the bowl where a square of white honeycomb lay, for a still living bee stuck in the liquid honey. "And how they are! You should have seen what went on at the station yesterday," said Katavasov, noisily crunching on a cucumber. "Well, how are we to understand that? For Christ's sake, Sergei Ivanovitch, explain to me where all these volunteers go. Who are they fighting?" asked the old prince, evidently continuing a conversation started without Levin. "The Turks," Sergei Ivanovitch replied with a calm smile, having liberated the bee, dark with honey and helplessly waving its legs, and transferred it from the knife to a sturdy aspen leaf. "But who declared war on the Turks? Ivan Ivanitch Rogozov and Countess Lydia Ivanovna, along with Mademoiselle Stahl? No one declared war, but people sympathize with the suffering of their neighbors and want to help them," said Sergei Ivanovitch. "But the prince is not talking about help," said Levin, interceding for his father-in-law, "but about war. The prince is saying that private persons cannot take part in a war without the permission of the government." "Kostya, look, it's a bee. We'll really get stung," said Dolly, waving away a wasp. "It's not a bee, it's a wasp," said Levin. "Well, sir, what's your theory?" Katavasov said to Levin with a smile, obviously challenging him to an argument. "Why do private persons not have the right?" "My theory is this. On the one hand, war is such a beastly, cruel, and terrible thing that no man, to say nothing of a Christian, can personally take upon himself the responsibility for starting a war. That can only be done by a government, which is called to it and is inevitably drawn into war. On the other hand, according to both science and common sense, in state matters, especially the matter of war, citizens renounce their personal will." Sergei Ivanovitch and Katavasov began talking simultaneously with ready-made objections. "That's the hitch, my dear, that there may be occasions when the government does not carry out the will of the citizens, and then society declares its will," said Katavasov. But Sergei Ivanovitch obviously did not approve of this objection. He frowned at Katavasov's words and said something different. "The question shouldn't be put that way. There is no declaration of war here, but simply the expression of human, Christian feeling. They're killing our brothers, of the same blood, of the same religion. Well, suppose they weren't even our brothers, our co-religionists, but simply children, women, old men. Indignation is aroused, and the Russian people run to help stop those horrors. Imagine yourself going down the street and seeing some drunk beating a woman or a child. I don't think you'd start asking whether war had or had not been declared on the man, but would fall upon him and protect the victim." "But I wouldn't kill him," said Levin. "Yes, you would." I don't know. If I saw it, I would yield to my immediate feeling, but I can't say beforehand, and there is not and cannot be such an immediate feeling about the oppression of the Slavs. Maybe not for you, but for others there is, said Sergei Ivanovitch, with a frown of displeasure. There are stories alive among the people about Orthodox Christians suffering under the yoke of the infidel Hagarenes. The people heard about their brothers' suffering and spoke out. Maybe so, Levine said evasively, but I don't see it. I'm the people myself, and I don't feel it. Neither do I, said the prince. I was living abroad and reading the newspapers, and I confess, before the Bulgarian atrocities, I simply couldn't understand why the Russians all suddenly loved their brother Slavs so much, while I felt no love for them. I was very upset. Thought I was a monster, or that Carlsbad affected me that way. But I came here and was reassured. I see there are people interested just in Russia and not in our brother Slavs. Constantine, for one. Personal opinions mean nothing here, said Sergei Ivanovitch. It's no matter of personal opinions when all Russia, the people, has expressed its will. Forgive me, I just don't see that. The people know nothing about it, said the prince. No, Papa, how could they not? What about Sunday in church? Said Dolly, who was listening to the conversation. Give me a napkin, please, she said to the old man, who was looking at the children with a smile. It can't be that everybody. And what about Sunday in church? The priest was told to read it. He read it. They understood nothing, sighed as they do at every sermon, the prince went on. Then they were told the church would take up a collection for a charitable cause, and so they each got out a kopeck and gave, but for what they themselves didn't know. The people cannot help knowing. A consciousness of the destiny always exists among the people, and in such moments as the present it becomes clear to them, Sergei Ivanovitch said, glancing at the old beekeeper. The handsome old man with streaks of gray in his black beard and thick silver hair stood motionless, holding a bowl of honey, looking down gently and calmly from his height upon the masters, obviously neither understanding nor wishing to understand anything. That's quite so, he said to Sergei Ivanovitch's words, shaking his head significantly. There, just ask him. He doesn't know or think anything, said Levine. Have you heard about the war, Mikhailich? He turned to him. What they read about in church. What do you think? Should we go to war for the Christians? What's there for us to think? Alexander Mikhailich, the Emperor, has thought on us, and he'll think on us in everything. He knows better. Shall I bring more bread for the lad? He asked Darya Alexandrovna, pointing to Grisha, who was finishing the crust. I have no need to ask, said Sergei Ivanovitch. We have seen and still see how hundreds and hundreds of people, abandoning everything to serve a just cause, come from all ends of Russia, and directly and clearly state their thought and aim. They bring their kopecks or go themselves and directly say why. What does that mean? In my opinion, said Levine, beginning to get excited, it means that among 80 million people, there are always to be found not hundreds like now, but tens of thousands of people who have lost their social position, reckless people who are always ready to join Pugachev's band, to go to Khiva, to Serbia. I tell you, they are not hundreds and not reckless people, but the best representatives of the nation, said Sergei Ivanovitch with such irritation as if he were defending his last possession. And the donations, here the whole people directly expresses its will. This word people is so vague, said Levine. District clerks, teachers, and maybe one music in 1,000 know what it's about. And the remaining 80 million, like Mikhailich, not only don't express their will, but don't have the slightest notion what they should express the will about. What right, then, do we have to say it's the will of the people? If you enjoy this format, please leave a like and subscribe and return tomorrow for the next chapter.